Good evening and welcome to NewsNight. Tonight we'll have all your international, national, and local news. I'm Ruthie Light.
And I'm Leslie Krebs. Major cuts continue in the U.S. government. However, many people are wondering about the legality of the White House's actions across multiple organizations.
We'll also talk about some of the accomplishments that Point Park students across the university are achieving, plus your local weather.
All this and more coming up on NewsNight.
A particularly hostile meeting between Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky could have just determined the fate of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. On Saturday, at least 22 Ukrainians were killed as Russia launched heavy aerial attacks on Ukraine for a second time. The Russian government is acting in response to the United States' decision to stop sharing satellite images with the Ukrainian government after a tumultuous White House visit with Zelensky last week. The U.S. government decided to cut satellite imagery in Ukraine as a way to pressure Ukraine into accepting a peace deal with Russia. Without U.S. satellite imagery, Ukraine's ability to strike Russia and defend itself against bombardment is nearly impossible. Only 24 hours before the attacks, Russia struck Ukrainian energy facilities with dozens of missiles and drones, limiting its ability to deliver heat and light sources to its citizens and to power vital weapons factories that would aid in their defense. According to President Zelensky, Russia fired 2 ballistic missiles into the center of the town of Dobropilya, then launched a strike targeting responding rescuers. It has been reported that 47 people, including 7 children, were injured in this attack. In response to this particular attack, Zelensky stated, quote, "It is a vile and inhumane intimidation tactic to which Russians often resort," end quote. Cumulatively, at least 22 people were killed across a series of attacks in towns in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. Towns close to the front where Russian troops had been steadily advancing, a drone attack on civilian workshops in the northeastern Kharkiv region, and a single shelling incident. Stay tuned for further development as the situation continues to unfold.
This past Tuesday, President Trump announced he would be imposing a 25% tariff on Mexico, China, and Canada, the U.S.'s 3 biggest trading partners. In an official statement by the White House, they said, quote, "Until the crisis is alleviated, President Donald J. Trump is implementing a 25% additional tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico and a 10% additional tariff on imports from China. Energy resources from Canada will have a lower 10% tariff," end quote. They also went on to say, quote, "President Trump is taking bold action to hold Mexico, Canada, and China accountable to their promises of halting illegal immigration and stopping poisonous fentanyl and other drugs from flowing into our country," end quote. One day later, after the tariffs were announced, Trump announced he would be adding a 1-month delay to the tariffs on auto-related goods for Canada and Mexico. Trump, another day later, on the 6th, announced he would be delaying the 25% tariff on all goods from Canada and Mexico. Canada and China both responded to the tariffs by imposing their own on the U.S. On Monday, Ontario placed a 25% tariff on the purchase of electricity for the U.S., something the U.S. heavily relies on in the northern part of their country to supply power. Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, said, quote, "I will not hesitate to increase this charge if the United States escalates. I will not hesitate to shut off the electricity off completely." He also went on to say, quote, "Believe me when I say this, I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people who didn't start this trade war. It's one person who is responsible, it's President Trump," end quote. Mexico has not yet retaliated or placed their own tariffs, as President Claudia Sheinbaum refused to retaliate without meeting with Trump and having a conversation. The U.S. stock market also took a hit in response to the tariffs, seeing steep drops and rises all in the span of a few days. After the initial imposition, the stock market dropped, specifically motor companies, but then later rose after the delay was announced. However, other stock markets took a deep plunge, like NASDAQ, which took a 2.5% drop. Right now, making not only the U.S.'s relationship internationally unstable, but also its economy. Earlier today, Trump threatened to double tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. He later rescinded this threat after Ford announced they would be suspending their tariffs on Canadian electricity. NewsNight will keep you updated as this ongoing situation occurs. While the U.S. may have allowed TikTok to make a return, other countries around the world are cracking down on the app's usage. First-time reporter Elena Bly is telling us about one country's year-long ban on the app. Elena?
The Albanian government agreed on March 6 to a year-long shutdown over concerns of violence and bullying on TikTok due to violence incited by the app in children. The idea of banning the app came after a teenager was stabbed by another teen over a dispute that allegedly started on TikTok. Following the incident, Albanian officials surveyed over 60,000 parents who supported the ban. TikTok told the Associated Press that it, quote, found no evidence that the perpetrator or victims had TikTok accounts, and multiple reports have in fact confirmed videos leading up to this incident were being posted on another platform, not TikTok, end quote. A group of protesters are set to gather on March 15th, arguing that the ban is being set out of fear and threatens free thinking. Additional measures are being taken in addition to the ban. Education Minister Agera Masarlu told the Associated Press that the Albanian government is in contact with TikTok and attempts to place restrictions on the platform. Security presence and training has also increased in some schools. Stay tuned to NewsNight as we watch continuing increases in TikTok restrictions and bans worldwide.
After more than 9 years as Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will be succeeded by former central banker Mark Carney. Carney, now leader of Canada's Liberal Party, won the ballot on Sunday, taking 85.9% of the vote, beating out Financial Minister Chrystia Freeland. During his speech at the party's gathering, he directed his frustration and dedication at winning the current U.S.-Canada trade war. He expressed, quote, "We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when something else drops the gloves. The Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win," end quote. Justin Trudeau will serve as Prime Minister until he officially leaves office in the coming week.
With the official ceasefire ending just over a week ago, Israel has now cut off its electricity supply to the Gaza Strip and one of its major desalination plants. This comes just after Israel cut off the entry of humanitarian aid to the region, with authorities now even more concerned about widespread famine and dehydration. Director General of the Coastal Municipalities Water Utility, Munther Shoblach, told National News that their water output has been dramatically reduced due to the actions of Israel and that, quote, cutting off the plant's electricity supply will impact 500,000 people, end quote. After a commercial break, we'll tell you about a virus starting to spread among America's southwest region. Plus, hear more about various protests to the war in Gaza and how some people are being deported over their stance on the matter. Don't go anywhere.
Pro-Palestinian activist group named Palestine Action vandalized President Donald Trump's Turnberry golf course in Scotland in response to the president's proposal that the United States take over the Gaza Strip and displace its residents. According to the group, quote, Palestine Action rejects Donald Trump's treatment of Gaza as though it were his property to dispose of as he likes. To make it clear, we have shown him that his own property is not safe from acts of resistance, end quote. The vandalization in itself consisted of red paint splashed over at least one of the resort's buildings, the slogan "Gaza is not for sale" painted on the lawn, dug up grass across parts of the course, and what appears to be a damaged lamppost. Trump first proposed that the U.S. should take a long-term ownership position towards Gaza during a news conference alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in February. However, input on the matter has varied across the globe. Netanyahu, along with multiple other far-right politicians, have encouraged the idea, whereas other world leaders, including many U.S. allies, have criticized the proposal, saying it would be a crime under international law. In response to President Trump's remarks regarding the matter, a spokesman for the UN Secretary General told reporters, quote, "Any forced displacement of people is tantamount to ethnic cleansing," end quote.
A measles outbreak has begun in parts of Texas. The Texas Department of State Health Services announced a measles outbreak in the South Plains region of Texas. So far, there have been 198 reported cases since January in that area, with 23 of the cases being hospitalized. The Texas DSHS reports that there likely will be more outbreaks in neighboring communities due to the incredibly contagious nature of measles. The two largest age ranges seeing infection are 0 to 4, seeing 64 cases, and 5 to 17 with 89 confirmed cases. 80 of those cases were confirmed to be unvaccinated, with the other 113 unknown of vaccination status. Only 5 of the cases were confirmed to be vaccinated. New Mexico is also seeing an outbreak of measles, so far only seeing 10 confirmed cases, the CDC reports. The CDC expects this outbreak to rapidly increase and spread in infection rates in those surrounding areas. The CDC also reported that at least 2 deaths related to measles outbreak, with 1 in Texas and the other in New Mexico. CDC says widespread infection should stay low due to large vaccination rates against measles, as well as widespread reporting and response nationally. The first symptoms and signs of measles, the CDC reports, are a fever, cough, runny nose, pink eye, and then a rash, which shows up a few days later. If untreated, measles can result in pneumonia, encephalitis, and possibly death. The CDC states measles is a highly contagious airborne virus that can be spread by infected droplets with direct contact or airborne after someone sneezes or coughs. The CDC says the best way to prevent measles is to stay up to date with your measles, mumps, rubella vaccination. If you do become sick, you should see your nearest doctor or ER immediately for treatment. One of the Trump administration's most visible ways of attempting to remove government waste is to limit the amount they spend on foreign aid, a significant portion of which is used to save people's lives. Reporter Gabby Waite is in studio to talk to us about the administration's massive cut in U.S. aid. Gabby?
Thank you, Leslie. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that on Monday, the Trump administration finished its 6-week purge of programs with the U.S. aid, with 83% of programs now gone. Rubio made the announcement in a post on X saying, quote, "Our hardworking staff worked very long hours to achieve this overdue and historic reform," end quote. The Trump administration has expressed their feelings on wanting to get rid of U.S. aid and to jumpstart its way on January 20th, when the President Trump issued an executive order directing a freeze of foreign assistance funding and review of all tens of billions of dollars in the U.S. aid. President Trump expressed the meaning of freezing the foreign assistance, feeling that it was a waste of U.S. money. Marco Rubio backed up the President Trump, saying, quote, "These programs spent tens of billions of dollars in ways that did not serve the core national interests of the United States," end quote. The State Department is now in multiple lawsuits battling over the rapid shutdown of U.S. aid programs. In shutting down the 5,200 of the U.S. aid programs, they have fired staff around the world, which is shutting down the U.S. aid payments overnight and terminated aid and development to thousands of contracts. Still, not much is known about what will be done with the remaining 18% of U.S. aid programs, except that they will be administered more effectively under the State Department.
The Transportation Security Administration has become one of the newest targets for change and privatization. On Friday, the Department of Homeland Security announced that it would end union contracts with TSA workers. This move is one that was included in the Project 2025 playbook. Homeland Security has said that, quote, "select few poor performers," end quote, of the nearly 50,000 employees are taking advantage of benefits and are more concerned with union matters than their jobs. Confusion is rising as these changes conflict with agreements that were previously understood to be legally binding.
A graduate student at Columbia University has had his green card revoked over his protesting of the war in Gaza. On Saturday, international student Mahmoud Khalid was detained and flown to an immigration jail in Louisiana, where he is currently staying pending a court hearing scheduled for tomorrow. According to Khalid's lawyer, ICE officers arrested Mahmoud asking for a student visa, which Khalid does not have. He has a green card. When later asked to show a warrant, Khalid's lawyer claims that over the phone the agent hung up on him. President Trump on his Truth Social account claimed that this will be the first of many deportations, saying further on the matter, quote, "We will not find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again," end quote. After the break, hear about accusations of racism coming from one Allegheny County official to another. Plus, hear why 2 local school districts are suing the state of Pennsylvania. We'll be right back.
A woman identified as Lauren Piasecki of Pittsburgh's Morningside neighborhood is accused of using her interior design business to Sorry.
Go ahead, you're good.
Okay. A woman identified as Lauren Piasecki of Pittsburgh's Morningside neighborhood is accused of using her interior design business to scam fellow Pittsburghers out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. In total, Piasecki is accused of scamming her victims out of $488,778.88 collectively. According to District Attorney Steven Zappala's office, Piasecki charged her victims through her company, Black Cherry Designs, but did not deliver on promised work. Records from her company display that Piasecki had used her company's revenue to make payments to loan companies and personal expenses, including hotels, turnpike tolls, Uber rides, and Amazon purchases. A personal account of one of her victims describes one of the many she has taken advantage of. According to Brandon Mahler, a former client of Black Cherry Designs, his wife and himself hired Piasecki for a first-floor renovation of their Swissvale home in 2022 when the project took a turn. Mahler says that once the physical renovations of the home were complete and it was time to finally fill the space with furniture, nearly $16,000 worth of inventory that they previously paid for never showed up. They later terminated their contract with Black Cherry Designs and demanded full reimbursement from Piasecki. Mahler stated, quote, "Off the top of my head, out of 18 or 19 items we got, like 3 or 4, end quote. The couple threatened to sue before receiving 3 checks from Piasecki. After almost 2 years after taking legal action, Mahler says they are still missing more than $9,000. Piasecki's motive is unknown, but the Pittsburgh and Mount Lebanon police departments are involved in further investigation.
This past Thursday, Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey called Allegheny County District Attorney Stephen Zappala racist, saying, quote, "I told the DA he's a racist. I ain't support the DA," end quote. The video was posted to his social media accounts later that afternoon. That video was a part of a speech Gainey made hoping to gain new prospective voters for the upcoming election. Many members of the Pittsburgh City Council remarked on the comment. WPXI reports with Councilman Anthony Kogel saying, quote, "I thought it was disgraceful. I really did. It's not the type of behavior I want to see out of our mayor. I'll tell you, I think he needs to apologize. I've known Steve Zappala and his family for a long time. I don't believe he has a racist bone in his body," end quote. Gainey and Zappala have been at odds several times over the years involving safety enforcement laws regarding downtown Pittsburgh, as well as disagreeing on a consultant report on city police. WTA reports Gainey said, quote, "It's thriving in a way that it hasn't for a while. Nightlife is back in the city, restaurants are doing well," end quote, back in 2023 in regards to downtown Pittsburgh, while Zappala remarked, quote, "If you are not going to enforce the law and it continues to move the way that it is, then I will sue you in federal court," end quote, in regards to law enforcement downtown in 2023. After the video was posted, Gainey never commented on the event and rather directed attention to his campaign, where WTA reports his campaign released a statement saying, quote, "It's no secret the mayor and many Western PA Democrats have long disapproved of the Republican DA's actions and campaigned for Democratic nominee Matt Dugan over him. At a time where Trump is rolling back civil rights, protections cheered on by white supremacists, Democrats can't be afraid to call a spade and stand up for the constitutional rights of our constituents," end quote. As of now, no other statement has been released regarding Gainey's remarks on Zappala. The entire world is seemingly moving away from diversity initiatives, and Pittsburgh is no exception to that. Reporter Elena Hoblai is here to tell you how 2 community school districts are taking that fight all the way to the state's legislature. Elena?
On March 6th, Knox School District and Southside Area School District both sued the state of Pennsylvania over new language regarding the definition of sex. The plaintiff launched a complaint against Governor Josh Shapiro and the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. The group claims that Governor Shapiro and the PHRC had no right to change the definition of sex, as the state Supreme Court's language surrounding it includes male and female only. The lawsuit attacks a 2023 revision to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act and the Pennsylvania Fair Educational Opportunities Act. The new language outlines sex to include, quote, "pregnancy status, childbirth status, breastfeeding status, sex assigned at birth, gender or identity or expression, affectional or sexual orientation differences, and sex in development," end quote. Other proponents of the complaint include Republican State Representatives Aaron Bernstein and Barbara Gleam, in addition to 3 parents and 7 students. It's not clear yet how the lawsuit will pan out, but stick with NewsNight for future updates.
Schenley Plaza was filled with protesters consisting of Pittsburgh researchers, scientists, doctors, and professors to push back against the Trump administration's attempt to cut federal funding for scientific research. This comes after the NIH lowered the funding gap on ancillary research and indirect costs. These citizens are a part of the activist group Stand Up for Science, where they seek policy action valuing the integrity and accessibility of science. Event organizer and chemistry professor Carrie McDonough stated, quote, "The Trump administration wants to dismantle our scientific institutions so that we can't even tell when they're lying to us anymore. When the administration is anti-fact and anti-scientific method, we have to push back," end quote. A family and community is still in a state of worry after a local student's spring break has turned into a nightmare. Reporter Gabby Waite has more information on the ongoing case.
Thanks, Ruthie. University of Pittsburgh student Sakusha Konagi went missing on her spring break in the Dominican Republic. According to police, she is said to have vanished between the times of 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. Konagi and her friends were scheduled to return last Friday, March 7th, but when Konagi went missing Thursday, March 6th, they decided to extend their stay to help for their friend. Konagi's clothes were found on a portable beach bed on the Dominican Republic beach where authorities believe she was last seen. The police have released a statement based off their findings that they have found no evidence of violence that is known. Konagi and her friends went to a club Wednesday night, and afterwards they went to a beach around 4 a.m. It was said and released from authorities that Konagi's friends headed back to the room around 5:50 a.m. However, Konagi stayed back with another group of people. A part of that group told authorities that what they remember was Carnegie was caught by a big wave, and during that time, they headed back to shore and threw up and fell asleep on the beach. They then explained to authorities that when they woke up, Carnegie was gone and nowhere to be seen. Currently, the FBI are investigating, working alongside Dominican authorities. The Bureau stated that we stand ready to assist our international partners with any request for assistance, end quote. The local Dominican Republican Emergency Operations explained their hard efforts to find Carnegie, stating, quote, several brigades have been deployed by sea and land to find their whereabouts, end quote. The University of Pittsburgh spokesperson urged anyone with any information on Carnegie's disappearance to say to contact the London County Sheriff's Office.
Point Park's radio station, WPPJ, just won big at a national radio conference this past weekend.
Members of the station traveled to the Intercollegiate Broadcasting Systems Conference in New York, and it's there where Point Park's Leah Revo and Delta Daily won the award for Best Show Promo in the country. We spoke with Leah earlier today about what that award means to her.
It's actually really good, something to put on the resume. That's always good to have. But I was honestly a little bit surprised once I seen the finalists, and I wasn't sure how many people entered altogether, but once I seen that there was like 5 or 6 finalists altogether, I was honestly surprised to hear when my show promo won, so that was really exciting.
WPPJ was also a finalist for Best College Radio Social Media. Congratulations to Leah, Delta, and the rest of the radio station on your win. Well, don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll hear about one celebrity is helping high school students affected by the Californian wildfires.
We'll also have our weather reporter give you a look at if these warm temperatures are going to stick around. Don't go anywhere.
Take them cue and open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Hundreds of high school students in California are now attending prom free of charge. Steve Carell, in a sentimental video announcement displayed at 6 different high schools in Altadena, California, announced that he, alongside the charity Alice Kids, will cover the cost of their prom tickets. Alice Kids is a nonprofit that provides financial assistance to children in need across the country anonymously. This cost coverage stems from the organization's founder, Ron Fitzsimmons, wanting to uplift the students before graduation, and Steve Carell's wife, Nancy Carell, making a large donation. Steve Carell was honored to break the news, stating, quote, Alice Kids wanting me to let you know that they will be paying for all of your prom tickets, and if you've already paid for your prom tickets, they will reimburse you, end quote. The details on how the schools will receive the funds will be cleared in the coming weeks. Well, it looks like winter is finally coming to a close and spring is upon us. Weather reporter Angelo Sposito is here to tell us if the temperatures are just a fluke or if they're really here to stay. Angelo, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Ruthie. It looks like spring has finally arrived in the Steel City. Temperatures began to rise over the weekend, and that trend looks like it's going to stick around. Tomorrow, while we are going to have some clouds stick around for the majority of the day, we'll be seeing temperatures stick around the mid-60s, reaching a high of 66 degrees. We'll have some light wind throughout the day, reaching gusts of 19 miles an hour, but not enough to make the day significantly cooler. As we head into the rest of the week, it looks like things are going to get warmer and warmer. By Friday, we're going to jump all the way up to 76 degrees, and with minimal clouds, this will be a great way to jumpstart the weekend. While the warm temperatures will stay on Saturday, we are going to see some rain throughout the day. However, as we get into Sunday afternoon, the rain will have passed and the temps will still feel like springtime at around 65 degrees. Temperatures will cool heading into the week, being 52 on Monday and rising to 64 on Tuesday. But it's looking like after a cold winter, springtime is beginning to dawn upon us. Now, back to the desk.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of NewsNight. If you want to see more, check out our social media pages on both Facebook and Instagram at UView Television.
You can also check out more episodes on our YouTube channel or our website, uview.pointpark.edu. I'm Leslie Krebs.
And I'm Ruthie Light. From everyone here at NewsNight, thank you for watching and have a great evening.